It is officially 7:32, so we're going to get started before we all freeze to death. This is the preliminary budget hearing for the town of Woodbridge. Tonight is Monday, April 18th, 2022, and we are going to be reviewing the 2022-2023 budget at this meeting. Before we start the budget presentation, our first selectman, Beth Heller, has some remarks. You can take this one. I can take that one. Yeah, it is.
Good evening and welcome to the town's preliminary budget hearing. Before I begin, I would like to thank our volunteer fire department for hosting us this evening. Under normal circumstances, we would hold a meeting of this size in the center building gym. However, there is no ventilation in that room, and meeting here with the bay doors open is a much safer option. At tonight's meeting, we will take the first of two steps in the budget process of approving our town budget for the new fiscal year beginning July 1st. Our annual budget reflects our shared values and is a balancing act of our commitments to provide excellent education for our children and show our respect to taxpayers by carefully budgeting and responsible spending on essential town services. Special thanks go out to our Board of Finance and our Finance Director, Tony Genovese, for developing our final proposed budget, which has been especially difficult this year. I'd also like to thank our department heads who kept their budget requests as low as possible. Tonight, I will review what we have accomplished as we head toward the close of our fiscal year on June 30th. We have and always will place a high value on public education of our town's children, both at the Beecher Road School and for grades pre-K through 6, and in the Amity Regional District Schools for grades 7 through 12. Our budget continues to fund the resources that are necessary to ensure the outstanding quality of our school programs and support the teachers and staff members at Beecher. At the Amity Regional Middle School Bethany and Amity High School, the town works closely with the district to also ensure that all necessary resources are provided for the superb educational opportunities we want and need for our students there. Furthermore, the town and Beecher administration continue to collaborate, consolidate services, and find ways to share costs. We are looking carefully at additional ways to save taxpayer money while maintaining top quality, locally controlled educational services to all Woodbridge children. I am proud that despite our sometimes differing viewpoints, we always work together amicably. I thank both boards of education for working so hard to achieve what is best for our students and our taxpayers. We have many great departments that make Woodbridge a special place. I'm going to highlight a few for you. Our volunteer fire department responds to calls for service 24/7, 365. On average, they respond to 483 incidents per year. In 2021, they responded to 27 fire calls, 10 severe weather calls, 171 hazardous conditions, 26 service calls, and 13 rescue and emergency medical service incidents. In addition to this important service, these volunteers put on tremendous community events like Truck or Treat. They also provide fire education at our school, trained volunteers properly install car seats, and they hold a toy drive for Christmas and host Santa and Mrs. Claus. Our Public Works Department is made up of 3 sections: highway parks, building maintenance, and waste management. The Highway Department oversees 78 miles of roads, including paving and plowing, storm drains, street lighting, line striping, and trees. This year, they have removed 62 problematic trees and have a list of another 60 or so to address. Building maintenance oversees the maintenance, operation, and security of all town buildings and sidewalks and handles setup and breakdown for town meetings and events like this one tonight. Waste management runs our transfer station. So far this year, They have disposed of 1,384 tons of municipal solid waste, 461 tons of recycling, and 341 tons of demolition bulky waste. Our police department is a 24/7, 365 operation. So far this year, they have responded to 257 car accidents, completed 1,121 traffic stops, done 18,690 deterrent patrol assignments, answered 552 calls for medical assistance, and made 5 driving under the influence arrests. They have answered 24,641 assorted calls for service and responded to 603 activated alarms. Woodbridge PD also sponsors a Fill a Cruiser to help needy families with toys at Christmas, volunteers with senior center luncheons, and participates in Special Olympic fundraiser. 2 officers are assigned full-time to our local schools, and Officer Lynch runs a DARE program at Beecher Road School. Our department also has 2 trained traffic accident reconstructionists and 1 state of Connecticut certified drug recognition expert. Woodbridge Human Services provides social services, senior services, and youth services. Here are a few examples of the social services provided: health and wellness, including pandemic assistance, client advocacy, and programs and services, including fuel assistance, beta tax assistance, and food pantry coordination. The Woodbridge Senior Center offers senior services, including a transportation program, meal distribution program, health, wellness, and education programs, and social and hobbies classes. Our Youth Services Bureau offers positive youth development and programming, including babysitting training and internet safety, job bank, and community service opportunities for Woodbridge students. The Woodbridge Town Library exists to serve the informational, intellectual, cultural, and leisure needs of the Woodbridge community. The library typically offers hundreds of programs a year, ranging from story times and craft programs to lectures and concerts. This year, the library has gone fine-free, meaning they no longer charge fines for late returns of library materials. The library also offers tech help to Woodbridge residents via appointment. The Recreation Department offers adult programs and youth programs, a variety of summer camps, and maintains facilities including bocce, shuffleboard, pickleball, tennis courts, and permits, and manages the use of town recreational fields. Each season this year, Rec has served approximately 200 youth. The department offers swim lessons, yoga for adults, and a volleyball league. They organize the beloved summer concert series, the annual road race, and the Logan Testa Memorial Kids Triathlon. I have been focusing on funding quality of life improvements without increasing the tax burden. This year, I have secured more than $3 million in grant funding, $2 million to renovate the old firehouse, $425,000 total for the senior center renovations, and $600,000 for sidewalks and pedestrian improvements in the town center. The old firehouse building was damaged in fire in 2006. Using insurance proceeds and a steep grant, we completed design-neutral but necessary upgrades to the building, including a new roof and upgraded mechanicals. These new $2 million in state funds will finalize the project and convert the empty building in a community center for use by all residents with recreation and leisure programs and room rental for community organizations and individuals. Included in the project is a new elevator, making the building ADA accessible, and a small kitchen for meeting use. The old firehouse is a beautiful building and I think the gateway to the town center campus and an important part of the town center beautification plan. I'm hopeful that construction will begin this summer on the renovations to the Woodbridge Senior Center so that Woodbridge seniors will have a modern, fresh, welcoming, and air-conditioned space. This project is a result of years of planning and will help our seniors to remain healthy and active, which of course a critical goal for our aging population. When finished, we will have a space worthy of the wonderful and exciting programming that happens inside. This winter, we earned a nearly $600,000 Department of Transportation grant to install sidewalks connecting Amity Regional High School to the town center and to also upgrade the asphalt sidewalk that goes around the library lawn. These 3 projects, together with have moved the needle on our town center campus beautification plan. which envisions making our town center campus a more beautiful, inviting, welcoming, safe, and pedestrian-friendly space. Remaining projects in the beautification plan include additional outdoor seating, upgraded signage, and improvements to the center gym. This year, we also finalized the town's first bike route, paid for by a campaign of private donations matched by a grant. Thank you to all the donors. So many people made these projects possible. It has been a true community effort to make these improvements to the center of our community. This year's budget process has been extremely challenging. Our budget problem is caused by a stagnant grand list. Expenses continue to grow, but our grand list does not. A stagnant grand list puts upward pressure on the mill rate. Our budget challenges continue due to decisions made over many, many years to restrict residential and commercial zoning and to conserve open space, which has left us little room for any growth. New revenue is critical to continue to fund our high-quality education and other important and most necessary town services. Last year, I created the 2030 Task Force, which was charged with seeking ways to create a healthier, robust grand list by 2030. Recently, this ad hoc committee presented a proposal to the Board of Selectmen, which included ideas to improve the business district. I remain hopeful as well that a more attractive and pedestrian-friendly business district will attract more businesses and consumers. I thank the task force for taking on this important topic. I have also created a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen. Both Selectmen Sheila McCraven and David Vogel agreed to serve on this most important committee, charged with creating a strategic plan to help direct the board's priorities for the future. Financial stability is a major pillar of that plan, and we will soon have ideas on how to move us toward that goal. I anticipate sharing a draft of the plan at next month's annual town meeting. One way in which we are working toward a stronger financial future is by getting municipal waste costs under control. Our current contract for trash disposal runs through 2024, and it is estimated that when our contract is due to be renewed, we would be paying twice as much as we are now. We're working to divert waste in preparation of these increases. The heavier our trash is, the more we pay. In the past few years, we have purchased and installed a scale at the transfer station and instituted a tip fee for private haulers. Additionally, this year, the Board of Selectmen instituted a fee for disposal of bulky waste, such as furniture and demolition. We are involved in a pilot program to take glass out of the waste stream. At the transfer station, we have a bin just for glass. The state of Connecticut has set a goal that 10% of each town's housing be, quote-unquote, affordable. Currently, only 1.18% of Woodbridge homes qualify as affordable. It is our town's obligation to provide housing which is not exclusionary and is affordable. Our ad hoc Housing Opportunity Study Committee is hard at work on an affordable housing plan due to the state by June 1st. This plan should help us find ways to move toward that 10% benchmark. I thank the committee for all their hard work. They have collected resident input through 2 surveys and held workshops and public forums. Woodbridge has received $2.6 million through the Federal American Rescue Plan Act. This is a once-in-a-generation funding opportunity, and I strongly believe it should be used for once-in-a-generation transformational projects. After the Board of Selectmen receives the final copy of the strategic plan, the board will review the plan and see if there are any projects in the plan that should or could be accomplished with the ARPA funds. The board will come up with a list of suggested projects and then ask you, the public, for feedback. Following that feedback, the board will decide our funding priorities for Woodbridge. My ideas are to use these funds to make improvements to the business district and add ventilation to the center building so we can safely return to holding meetings and events in the center gym. I'd also like to add a pavilion to the library lawn so that outdoor events have a covered space. I'd like to upgrade our aging playgrounds and/or make investments in the aging irrigation systems at our ball fields. We continue to see new residents moving to town, many due in part to the pandemic, as folks seek to live in more open neighborhoods. The Ad Hoc Community Council has held new resident welcome events to help orient new residents, answer their questions, and help new residents through their transition, which was made more difficult by the pandemic. This coming weekend, the Community Council will hold our second annual Earth Day event, and in May they invite you to join them for a community bike fun ride to celebrate the town's new bike route. Our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee held a wildly successful event last fall, Woodbridge Like Me Day. I expect to see it again this year and for years to come. The event celebrated the many organizations, clubs, and cultures represented in our town. I thank both of these volunteer groups for helping make Woodbridge a more welcoming town and for strengthening our community. If I have learned nothing else during this pandemic, we are stronger together. We may not all agree on the best direction for our town, but we are all sincere in our desire to make Woodbridge the best possible version of itself. I want to express my gratitude to the residents of Woodbridge who have taken the time to reach out to me by phone, text, or email these past few years. I have and will continue to listen to your opinions and suggestions and help you get answers to your questions. By working together, we can solve problems and enhance the quality of our life in town. As your first selectman, it is my honor and my privilege to serve this community. Before I turn it over to Tony Genovese, our Town Administrative Officer and Director of Finance, I will proudly note that Tony and the Board of Finance's work on behalf of Woodbridge has once again resulted in accolades, both the Budget Award and Audit Award from the Government Finance Officers Association. I will also ask Tony to share with you the town's new interactive online budget. This tool should help residents better understand our finances and budget. Tony will now step us through the budget details. Thank you very much.
Can we believe that with a little more volume?
Okay. Too late, sorry. It's hard to hold this and keep going here.
Thank you, Beth. Now, Tony Genovese, our Director of Finance, would like to make a presentation of some statistical facts.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me out there? Okay, I think I'm going to actually do this. Thank you very much. When we begin our budget process, we have four main priorities that the town follows. One is, of course, to control taxes, which we balance our wants versus needs. We proactively search for grants. As Beth mentioned, approximately $3 million in grants in the past year. And work to expand our grant list. That's our most recent priority. We've maximized our efficiency over the past few years by reducing staff and 10 positions over the last 6 years. This year we do add a dispatcher position in the police department, so that's really reduction of 9 positions. And we continue to maintain the services while we become leaner and more efficient. We also continue our fiscal stewardship, as Beth mentioned. The GFOA has a number of standards that are set with financial reporting and budget reporting, and those are mainly geared to provide transparency in financial reporting to the community, and really that's the main goal of both of those programs. And so we take that very seriously and work to always improve those documents. As part of the GFOA budget program, there's been a major change in how the budget documents are presented, at least a national standard for presenting budget, and that's in a new online format. So while Betsy gets that up, we had traditionally provided a budget book, which we still have here tonight. It's a more abridged version, but what you have in front of you is our online budget. If you go to our website, you can easily connect to it. And it's made up of several parts. I just want to go through it briefly so you can understand how it works. The first section is about Woodbridge. It's an introduction to the reader of the budget and has facts about the town that you can learn about Woodbridge, including the principal officials, some demographics, and the history of Woodbridge. The second section is a budget overview that provides a snapshot of the budget and an overview of the budget for the coming year. You'll see it has an executive summary as well as some the mill rate calculation and some higher level information. The third section is the fund summary. In this particular case, we have just a general fund that's an appropriated fund. In some communities, there are sewer funds and other utility funds, but Woodbridge has only the one appropriated fund. And so if you go on there, it gives you a summary of the general fund over the past 10 years. The next section are the funding sources in Woodbridge for the general fund. And this has, for example, has all the major groups: property taxes, department revenues. In this section, just to highlight, these are department charges. So it has our department charges over the past 10 years. And you can see both the budget and the actual for each year and how that works. You'll see there's a spike in those first 2 years. That's when we had golf revenues. So you can see how much higher the revenues are in those years than the other years. It has major revenues by department, which gives you a summary of each revenue item and the changes for the coming year, as well as a graph of that same information. You could change the graph type if you'd like. There's a historical view of those revenues, again by major category, and you can see that spike again. And finally, the details. So it has that for each revenue source, and it provides you with a lot of information on our town revenues. There's also town departments, has the same type of information. We'd like to highlight the library. Betsy can, a little tricky. All right, so there's the library. So the department has the summary of the department. Here we've linked the library website as well as the library social media pages, so you can click through to those. Has the highlights from the previous year. A 10-year expenditure summary again of the library, including the budget and actual. Has expenditures by type, so you can see at the, for the coming year, the salaries make up 73.8% of the budget for the library. That's those same categories over a 10-year period. It has each of the line items for the library, so you can see several years of history there. It has our 2023 objectives for Eric in the library, which they hope to accomplish, as well as several goals that the budget hopes to accomplish. So we have that information for each department. Just a couple more categories. There's a snapshot of our education, 2 education budgets. There's our 6-year capital plan, which has our multi-year plan. It has, you can download the document that you're used to seeing, which is right there. And it downloads our traditional plan, so you can see our traditional plan if you want to look at it in that format. Or you can look through the budget and you can see each of the projects by department and by funding source. So it gives you an idea of the types of projects. This is our first year with the online budget, so we hope to improve it each year as we become more familiar with it. And finally, our last category is our debt service. And this has a government-wide debt by type, which provides all of our amortization schedules for each debt issuance here. So there's all of our debt issuances there and how much we owe and the remaining. So that's just a snapshot of our online budget. So if there are any questions on that or any suggestions for improvement, please feel free to contact us and we can work on that for you. As we continue with the budget, you'll see that this is a snapshot of our grand list, our lack of grand list growth. We've had a reduction in our grand list in the past 10 years of 6.58%. So you can see in 15 and in 20, there were reval years. In each case, the grand list had gone down. We're not alone in this. Madison, in the same 10-year period, is down 14%. Guilford, 13.5%. Ridgefield, 18%. And Simsbury, 4%. So it's not, Woodbridge is not unique in this, but you can see we've had our grand list reduction over the past 10 years. One of our major budget items is our schools, and the Woodbridge Board of Education has a 5% increase this year. Amity, a town's contribution to Amity in our budget this year is 5.66% increase, and all the remaining town departments are 2.83%. For the past several years, the town has received a surplus funds from Amity. So in this year's budget, the proposal is to use $611,000 in town revenue to help offset the mill rate increase, and $283,000 of the remaining is used in a fund to offset capital project costs. Finally, there is a $170,000 excess cost grant. It's actually in two parts. A portion is directly to the Woodbridge Board of Education, and the town will recognize a portion as revenue as well. Over the past 6 years, just give you a snapshot of where our budget increases have been over the past 6 years. You can see the Woodbridge Board of Education is at 15%. The town portion of Amity budget, 20.5%, and the remaining town departments are at 3.04%. So that's just the increases over the past 6 years from 2016 to 2022. This is our calendar for the budget process, which begins in September and really ends in May. So for most of the year, we are in our budget process in one form or another, although those of us who are involved in the budget know it's a year-round process. Budget revenues are at $53,824,129, of which 93% is from property taxes. So a majority of our revenue is from property tax. We get about 2% from intergovernmental revenue and a little over 2% from department charges. Those are charges that the department charges for services. And other revenue in another 2%. This year we had some pretty significant increases in our revenues. Our department charges are up 22%. Primarily, we've had an increase this year in rec fees. Rec fees are up $65,000. Transfer station fees are up $70,000. And building permit fees are up $75,000. Those are our major increases in those categories. In intergovernmental revenue, I mentioned earlier, our special ed excess cost grant is going to be higher this year than we've had historically, as well as some additional funding in ECS, which is Education Cost Sharing Grant, and some pilot funds. So those are some of our highlights in our revenues. Our budget at $53,824,129 is basically 38% town government, 32% Amity Board of Education contribution, and 30% for the Woodbridge Board of Education. That's basically the percentages of our budget. Our general fund expenditures also up 4.38%. Just a couple of highlights here. We mentioned the Board of Education increases previously. The public safety is up a little under 4%. That includes an additional dispatcher position, which I mentioned earlier. The general government is up 4.32%. That includes increases for cybersecurity costs for both insurance and for IT costs, as well as some planning expenditures budgeted in the Board of Selectmen budget. The result is a 1.99% increase in the mill rate this year, from 42.64 to 43.49. And before we conclude this presentation, I always like to give just a quick snapshot of our debt service. So an industry standard, if you read the GF Government Finance Officer's guidelines, is typically 10% or less of your expenditures. So if we're at $53 million, you can see our debt service is little under $4 million. Our share of the Amity debt is called overlapping debt. You'll notice that that's the project from 2003 begins to get paid off, and their debt drops dramatically. There's also a section in there for debt under consideration, which is at $10 million. That's not really anything specific, but rather an indication of what $10 million in issuance would look like if that was to be issued over the next few years. Thank you.
So with that, we will start the review of the preliminary budget. Just a couple of items of information. If you have a question or a comment, we ask that you go to the microphone here in the center aisle, identify yourself and your address. And I'm also told this year there's a sign-up sheet. They'd like you to sign in on the sign-up sheet. Okay. There will be no votes taken tonight. No, we're not going to be counting how many people are here or how many people are voting. This is strictly an informal hearing to listen to any comments about the budget. Just a few items on the budget. The total expenditures in this budget recommended by the Board of Finance. Can't read, it's awful dark here. $53,824,129. Of that, it's going to be paid for by non-tax revenues of $3,826,642, meaning that we must raise taxes in total $49,997,487, which results in a tax increase or a mill rate increase of 1.99%. Okay, I am going to be reading off of this document, which everybody should have received in the mail. There's also these booklets that I've seen people take, just the numbers, but I'm going to be reading off of this, and of course I'm going to be reading the Board of Finance proposed budget for each department. Again, if you have a question, the microphone is right there. We have members of various departments here, and of course the Board of Finance. Hopefully we can answer any question you might have. Okay, so the first department is the Board of Selectmen in the amount of $638,121. If a question comes up on one of these departments after we've passed it, we'll go back to it. The probate court, which is statutory, of course, $9,500. The town clerk, $239,130. Registrar of Voters, $67,834. Government Access Television, $26,648. General Administration, which you'll find is primarily town insurance, $295,000. Information Systems, exactly what it says, $176,166. The Finance Department, which is Tony Genovese's department, $269,263. Tax Collector, $164,569. Tax Assessor, $183,879. In the back, there should be a little button.
Dan Cowan, 33 Wedgewood Road, Drive, actually. I'm wondering if you could step back to the line item, that was the very first one, 11100 Board of Selectmen, and that's $651,000. I know it's a very small amount regards to the whole budget, but maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what that actually is. You know, why is it that our Board of Selectmen cost us $650,000?
I'm not hearing you. What'd you say? I didn't hear what you said.
The Board of Selectmen cost is $650,000 annually, and I'm just wondering if you can tell us what that $650,000 is. Is that like?
638,000.
Yes, that's the proposed, correct. The department request was 651. Yes, 638. What is that? Is that like paper, you know, printing of things? Like, what does that actually make up?
Give me a second. Well, there's a list of items. Of course, the first selectman's salary, administrative salaries, clerical salaries, professional services, our town council is in there, legal fees, labor negotiations, regional services, I'm picking the biggest ones, other purchase services, printing charges, it's a whole myriad of accounts. Where'd he go? Oh. Okay. Where was I? Let's see here. I think next was going to be Board of Assessment Appeals, $2,000. Board of Finance, which is the board I'm with, and the biggest item there, of course, is contingency, which is the amount of money we carry in the case of a need for an unexpected or unanticipated expense. Town Plan and Zoning, $42,480. Zoning Board of Appeals, $2,650. The Center, which of course is the building across the street, $80,950. The former fire station, this is primarily utilities for the former fire station, $10,792. The police department, $3,350,718. The fire commission, $1,034,035. Medical services, this is the contractual service for the ambulance that you see around town with AMR, $317,848. Animal control, again, animal control services, several towns. This is our portion of it, $115,335. The building department, $130,859. Public Works, $1,399,393. Yes.
Chuck Pine, 162 Center Road. I'll fill this out in a second. I don't want to waste everybody's time. Going back to the scale that's at the transfer station, what did that cost to put in, and what's the expected ROI on the revenue that we're going to get from it?
Do you have that, Tom?
I don't. That was a few years ago. I don't have the exact.
I know. I asked a few years ago.
Figure.
I never got the answer. That's why I'm back.
I could tell you that we have definitely we charge a tip fee to our haulers,
Right.
which has certainly made up for the cost of the transfer of the installation of the scale, as well as the a reduction in some of the tonnage that we actually that comes through the scale from some of our haulers. That was also in a reaction to that. It also enables us to charge for bulky waste, which is coming up, which actually started a few months ago. So we've definitely made the return. In other words, the cost to install it has already been covered with additional revenue that we've collected.
Well, but that's exactly my question.
But I don't have the exact figures on me. I can send them to you, but
I would appreciate it, because obviously that was more than $50 to put in. You know, it's an expensive piece of hardware, and I know I go there on Saturdays and I never see a truck on there. I'm sure it's the haulers during the week that get dinged and measured and billed and all that.
Yeah.
But I would think that for that kind of an investment, we should have a decent return on it and then show a little plus side, right?
we have actually. It's been on
Love
the plus
to see
side.
it.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, another question just as far as process is concerned. I've got some other questions that may not be specifically about a particular department. You want to wait till the end for those?
Sure.
Okay, I'll fill this out in the meantime.
Yeah, again, I don't have the numbers either, but I know we've discussed it, and the cost of the scale has been, the amount of money we're generating and will generate will far exceed what we paid for it. It's a great investment. And like, as Tony said, amazingly, once we put the scale in, the haulers, some of the tonnage stopped from the haulers because they were probably bringing it in from other towns. So, okay. I believe we did, let's see, Building Department, Public Works. Our next was Waste Management, which again is the transfer station, the fees to run the transfer station. Building Maintenance, which is exactly what it says. Human Services, $497,892. I didn't say building. Building maintenance is $455,068. The Recreation Department, $546,530. Pool and Gym, which is, of course, Beecher Road School's pool and gym, which the town uses, $95,871. Parks Department, which takes care of all the parks and lawns around the town, not just the baseball fields and all, but all the lawns in town. $273,454. The Thomas Darling House, which, again, there's an offset. And on many of these, by the way, like recreation, for example, that's their budget, but in the revenue portion, you'll see that there's an offset of revenue against some of these things. Many of these departments, you'd have to go to the revenue section. Thomas Darling House, let's see, Library, $825,709. Conservation Commission, $3,450. Economic Development Commission, $3,450. The Inland Wetlands Commission, $55,139. Employee Fringe Benefits, $4,935,949. And keep in mind that those are all generally contractual obligations we have. We have little control over that. We have control over the contracts when we negotiate them, but these are these are the fringe benefits that have been negotiated. Debt service, $2,244,240, which is, of course, principal and interest on our debt. And finally, the big two, Woodbridge Board of Education, $16,339,701. Amity, which is voted on at a separate machine budget hearing, which we have here in town. I believe, I don't know why I'm thinking May 3rd, there will be a budget referendum on that. $17,197,401. And finally, capital and non-recurring, again, these are capital items for all the various departments. $1,020,797 for a total of $53,824,129. Okay, anything else?
Still Chuck Pine, 162 Center Road. A couple of things. Number one, are any of our reps from the Amity Board of Ed here? Are they here? Reason I ask is that it seems that every year we're overtaxed by the Amity Board of Ed, and then there's a rebate back, but then they keep some of it for projects that didn't make the cut list in their last budget, and it seems like a big shell game to me. It would occur to me, just tax us less to begin with. It has an impact on our budget, certainly, and it seems like that there's a much more direct way to keep our taxes in some control from the Amity Board of Ed perspective, and I was hoping to get an explanation if anyone who's on that board could explain that to us. No? All right, struck out there. Okay, next thing is, Beth made a point about the affordable housing and changes that have to be made, and it does affect the budget, or it will eventually. And my concern, and I don't think I'm alone in this, is that when you talk about the effect on the school system, it's not just about the kids going to Beecher for a few years. Those kids wind up going through the Amity system as well. And when you look at the projections of how much of our budget is coming out of or going to the Amity school system, it's going to do nothing but get higher, because we're going to have a larger portion of those kids coming from Woodbridge than we do now. So my question is, this is maybe not a specific budget question, but I think it's an important question, is what happens if we don't get to the 10%? What's the downside to our town financially? Is there a downside? Anybody know? I mean, everyone's clamoring, we got to get to 10%. Why? I mean, the law's been on the books for 30 years. A handful of towns have gotten there so far. Is there a punishment for the towns that don't get there financially? If so, what is it?
Don't know.
All right, well, I think we should probably find out, right, before we keep putting any more time into trying to get to this magic 10% number, because frankly, if it doesn't hurt our budget, doesn't affect us financially, who cares? Not to be indelicate, but that's what it comes down to. Our mill rate is going to be one of the tops in the state when the dust settles on this, and that's going to affect our property values. And it's only going to get worse if we have that additional burden on us. And, you know, we've been sort of, you know, a frog in a hot dish on a stove for a long time. We go up a little bit at a time until suddenly we're boiling and the party's over. And we're getting close to that now. So I think we got to look at all these things. And this pressure that we're supposedly feeling about this 10% number is going to have a huge impact on our budget for years to come. So let's find out what the downside is, please. Thank you.
Chuck, could I answer or speak to the Amity questions you asked?
Yeah, please.
I don't have answers for you, but I know before they do the referendum, they do have a hearing a budget hearing for the public to attend. And you should probably attend that.
I probably should. I'll find out about that one too then. Okay.
I did it many times way
All right.
back when.
Okay. Good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
One other, I'm a liaison to the Amity Board. Again, it's a 50-some-odd million dollar budget.
Yeah.
Every year, Chuck, the things that change from the time the budget is initiated until the end of the year, staffing changes, medical changes, it's all, now, there's no question that the surpluses have been extremely large. However, we have the Amity Finance Committee, which sits in on all these meetings, which was started after the fiasco in 2001. We're aware of these things year after year after year. They have returned, believe me when I tell you this, Tony and I looked at this, they have actually returned to the town of Woodbridge more money than we have given them over the last 5 years. Really.
I'd like to see that. Now.
Yeah, well, we'll give you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's been millions they've returned to us, So it's, at least it's up front. Let me say that to you. We're aware of it as we go through it.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
Is there anybody else?
Hi, my name is Andrea Weinstein, 11 Cross Hollow Road. I would just like to thank the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance for the very detailed work that you've presented and that you've worked very hard to continue to provide services for the community, and many thanks to the directors and the commissions who've worked very hard to support these efforts. I would like to actually mention also the rec department, also the skating rink happened as well this year. I don't know if that was mentioned in your report, Beth, so that offered a lot of nice winter pleasure for families. I think that, budget is a challenging issue. We know that our grand list, it seems our grand list needs to grow to offset the concerns that the community has. I think the issue of the affordable housing is extremely important. There are budget concerns, but it is the right thing to do. Many of us have lived in this community for years and have moved here for the school system, and to be able to provide that opportunity for families who may not be able to afford to live in Woodbridge, it's time we open the doors. I just wanted to share that perspective. Thank you all. Thank you, Beth.
Hi, Bob Hill, 68 Acorn Hill Road. So last year when we were at the town meeting, it was a little bit exciting for everyone. And I hope some things have been learned since last year. And I've noticed in a number of the notices that have gone out that you typically send out with the mailing that goes out, that we all need to be paying attention. Okay, and as we saw last year at the town meeting, everyone was paying attention when they saw what their mill rate was going to and was pretty upset about that. And I guess one of the things that I'll ask a question, but I'm also kind of making as a suggestion too. I've been through the budgeting process serving on a commission in town in the past and have known how that process unfolds. But one of the things that I think that needs to take place, and I guess I'm going to ask this question, is you don't have to answer it first because I'm going to make a couple other comments. As you look at each department, is the Board of Finance, I know they're liaisons with each department and the department heads, have they looked at each department and clarified roles? Where you look at each person, you look at what their assignment is, what they do. Sometimes that actually requires doing time studies on people. A lot of independent consulting firms do that. And what you learn is sometimes you have duplication of effort. Sometimes you find, some people are more productive than others. And that may be something that we need to look at. When I hear the comment, and it relates to a few different departments, well, there's nothing we can do about these items because we're under contract. Well, when you look at the contract and you say, okay, we have X amount of people, and I'm not going to speak about any particular department because then I'll come off as anti-whatever it happens to be department, so I don't want to get into that. That's your job. If you come to a realization that you start pricing yourself and the town out, maybe 10 of something in a department, maybe it needs to be 9. And maybe when you get into contract negotiations, maybe those people remember, last time we hardlined the town, we lost somebody. And that's just basic negotiation. When, and I don't know, maybe someone could answer this for me here, how many students on average are in the classrooms in Beecher? And I know nobody wants to say anything about the educational system. My kids benefited from it. Now, they sat with 25 kids in a class. I don't think there's 25 now. I've heard numbers in the 17s, but I'd like to hear what that number is. And, you know, I had a chance to attend the affordable housing, or the housing presentation, which I thought was well done, what you serve on that. And one of the factors that impacts affordable housing is the taxes. So when they do the calculations, what's happening is our taxes continue to go up. We're actually pricing more people out by letting our taxes keep going up. And maybe there's a point, and I know when this whole application happened for Orchard Road, we got accused as a town as being many different types of things that weren't very complimentary. And maybe we need to have a little leveler expectation instead of being at the 99.9% category with everything we do. Maybe, you know, that needs to be looked at. So I guess, you know, and I could make some comments about the grand list and development, but that's for another discussion in terms of, you know, how we really kind of shoot ourselves in the foot in terms of the way some of the zoning in the flats happens to be worked. But I am curious from last year, and I know, Tony, you put a tremendous amount of effort in managing the departments and putting together information that way. I'm curious what steps were taken to evaluate the current expenditures by department, not just saying zero plus they're adding or whatever it is, and justifying the current expenses from clarifying the roles, anything with time studies, or anything that's been done to look at where some things could be cut further. So that was my question. Thank you so much for all the work that you put into it. Some of it is a question, some of it is just a realization as we all try to work together to make Woodbridge be better and affordable for everyone. So, and that's important. So thank you.
Just a couple of things I could answer. Over the past 5 or 6 years, we've eliminated positions, 10 positions we've eliminated. So Tony is constantly reviewing with the department heads the various people, positions, whatever. He's consolidated departments. For example, our building inspector is now a part-time position. I don't have all the facts in front of me, but very definitely over the past 6 years, we've eliminated positions and consolidated. That's something Tony is constantly on top of. As far as the class size at Beecher Road School, if you can get a copy of their budget, they list each class and each class size by grade. So we don't have that handy tonight, but you can certainly get your hands on that. Okay?
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joy Prudhomme. I'm at 21 Barberry Lane. As PTO president at Beecher Road School, I would like to commend the town of Woodbridge, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and of course, the Woodbridge Board of Ed, Superintendent Dr. Budd and Richard Hewitt for their hard work on this year's budget for BRS. I've had the pleasure of being actively involved as a volunteer at BRS since 2015. And before I was PTO president, I was chair of fundraising and co-chair of special events. In these and my other volunteer roles at the school, I've seen firsthand how the school's needs have increased and how impactful budget cuts have been year over year. Like just about everyone in this town, my husband and I chose to move to Woodbridge for the amazing schools. Beecher Road School is, in my opinion, the crown jewel of our town. What happens in that school is nothing short of magical. The teachers and staff foster the most important foundation in our youngest community members' lives. For this reason, I have felt the call, like many before me, to help raise funds to bring curriculum enrichment and enhancements to the school. I feel it's important to state that the PTO has had to significantly increase its fundraising and contributions to the school over the past few years. This year alone, we've spent over $30,000 on books, technology, scholastic magazines, teacher grants for the whole school, and in addition, Arts Week, Empathy Week, the DARE program, and special events. It goes without saying, the pandemic has been difficult for everyone, but our early learners have been impacted in ways that we are just beginning to measure and understand. It will undoubtedly cost more to keep the high standards we have for our schools, but it's undoubtedly worth it since it's directly tied to our high test scores, school rankings, and home values in this town. I encourage everyone in Woodbridge to support this budget in our schools. I realize we need to find ways to save money and raise revenue in this town so taxes don't continue to increase, but it's imperative we continue to invest in our wonderful schools. Our children, our future, and our home values depend on it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Dan Cowan again, 33 Wedgewood Drive. So as we look at the budget, we see that 66% of our budget is actually education, and 90% of our revenue comes from the taxpayers. So for every dollar that we increase this budget, 90 cents on it goes back to the individuals in this room. Many of them aren't utilizing the schools at all and reap no reward from being a long-term citizen here. There's many people here who put their kids through the school and continue to reside here, and they're a great benefit to this community because they aren't utilizing that resource but continue to pay the taxes. And I wonder if there's anything that this board has done to reward those people who are long-standing citizens, because they're vital to this community and hopefully balancing this budget, because the longer people stay in their homes here, the less students we'll actually have in the school. I'll say something again that I said when I was on the Board of Ed and my daughter was attending Beecher Road. The classroom sizes are too small. We can reduce 1/6 of that budget by increasing the classroom sizes, and the Board of Ed should undertake that as an action. And my daughter's at Amity Bethany, and I would say that to every Amity Board of Ed member as well too. Increase the classroom sizes there as well. There's absolutely no reason why, with the skilled individuals we have teaching at these places, that they can't handle larger classroom sizes. We have excellent teachers there at both schools. They're very competent, very able to do it. And so we should allow them to have larger classroom sizes and teach the students. And we know that, I've spoken to Chuck's son. He's a very intelligent kid, 25 kids in the class. So, I'm sure that it's not a problem. And then finally, I would say that I was viewing the Amity budget, and I saw there was over $200,000 in DEI training and that budget alone, which is divisive concept training. And I think that we shouldn't be funding divisive concept training for either Beecher Road or Amity. Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you there, and hopefully it's not going to be held here. We can maybe go back to the gym, but we'll see. Take care. Thank you.